Hello everyone and welcome to Now You're Playing with Power, a Nintendo podcast. This is the 30th episode of our show, although not technically if you include the E3 special and the new special we did, but for solid numbered episodes where we do a standard episode. This is the 30th one, it's the end of the year, the last show of 2014, and here I am, joined, as always, by my co-host, Spally.
Hi, NYPPQuestions. I'm back from sunny San Diego, California, and
oh, so jealous of that. You must have had a great time there.
Very cold here in Edinburgh, I must say. And
especially when your boiler breaks, am I right, Bally?
Exactly. It is not ideal. So, yeah, I'm quite cold right now, but I'm sure we can plow on with the show.
I'm sure we can make it through somehow, absolutely. So yes, here we are. It's the end of the year. As such, this is going to be another special episode. We have some stuff lined up, including some of your emails for the Game of the Year stuff, and of course, we're going to conclude it with our own Game of the Year picks for 2015, a top 5 list from the both of us.
2014.
So, 2014. Well, I'm really getting ahead of myself, Bally.
Jumping ahead of yourself.
God, this time next year we could have a new Zelda game. That's scary, isn't it? Really.
God.
Let's not think about it. Let's just continue on. So, yes, I feel like I actually laid out the show when I was going to ask you to, but that's fine. I guess we'll just kick things off.
Cool.
So I'll kick things over to you, Bally, for what we've been playing this week, which is our first segment. So let's go.
So I have been playing an absolute classic, and that game is Super Mario World for the SNES.
You mean to tell me, Bally, as a Nintendo fan, that you have never played Super Mario World?
Yeah, you've not
Shocking.
either.
I know. Don't tell them. That's a secret. You're not supposed to tell them. I'm not supposed to. Absolutely, Bally. This is Super Mario World.
I think you gifted this game to me.
Right. So, if we go back into the annals of history of the Wii Virtual Console, back in the day, we were able to gift games to one another through the, I guess what was it called? Not the eShop, the Wii Shop channel, right? So the Wii Shop channel was kind of cool for the reason that you could actually send gifts to other people. Not sure why that's not implemented into the eShop these days, but certainly something Nintendo needs to look into. But yeah, one of the games that I gifted to you alongside things like Mega Man 2 and the original Lost Winds was, of course, Super Mario World. So yeah, it's been sitting there for a long time on your Wii backlog.
Exactly, it's been imported across to the Wii U. It cost me like £1 to do that, so I was able to play on the Wii U gamepad, and I must say,
I think that was probably a good idea, right? Considering the difficulty of this game and save states.
Probably, yes.
Needed,
I definitely used a lot of save states, and I should also add, I actually played a lot of this game on the plane, because when I was flying over to San Diego from London Heathrow, I brought my Wii U, and I had a plug on the plane, and I just simply plugged it in, and you know what? It worked fine, and it's really nice. I must have played most of the game while on the plane, actually, and I completed it while I was over in San Diego. So yeah, that was an interesting way to experience the game, playing a retro game, flying high, and yeah, I abused save states like crazy with this game, more so than I have done with any other game that's used save states before, and that's quite simply because this is an incredibly hard 2D platform. I think it's the hardest 2D platformer I've played.
A lot of people do talk about how Mario has gotten soft and easy in his newer iterations, and I mean the new Super Mario Brothers games you've played, would you kind of say that is the case comparative?
Yeah, definitely.
To
I mean,
the world?
I prefer Mario Bros. U in a number of ways, and I just think that this game is devilishly hard by the end because there are so many levels without any checkpoints, and it's the same old Mario formula of, and this is the same formula for all the new Super Mario Bros. Games, is that like you have your set number of lives, and when you lose all those lives you go back to your last save point, and that might be a few levels back, and it's just a horrible system that they still haven't got rid of. And obviously this is one of the original Mario games, so it obviously has that element implemented, and it's a real shame because I really dislike the live system. And I also, this is less of a gripe because I think a lot of people like this about this game is I just do not like secret exits. I've already said this about previous other Mario games and also Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, but I just don't like secret exits. And I feel like there's an awful lot of levels in this game to be discovered and secrets to be found through secret exits with this game. And it's not nice. I just don't like them. I've already explained on the show why I don't like them. It's quite hard to articulate why I don't like them. I don't know. I just feel like this game was fun to play, but it was just a bit frustrating. And I feel like it almost suffers from an Ocarina of Time syndrome, you know?
Careful here, Bally.
So what I mean by this is it absolutely blew everyone away at the time. But over the process of time, I feel it's become harder and harder to play. Now it's very different in so many ways to that game, obviously, because it's two-dimensional. It's also much older. I think this game was 1992, I want to say.
Super Nintendo.
Yeah,
Super Nintendo.
So I just don't think it's aged very well. But the most negative thing about saying it's not aged very well is that I've played plenty of New Super Mario Bros. U. And it suffers from a lot of the same issues.
Really?
Well, mainly the secret exits and the live system. But I feel Mario Bros. U is just such a nicer game to play because of how easy it is. And I don't want to just be hard on this game because it's so hard. But
but
I don't get like how there was any way I would have ever have completed this game without save states.
You're kind of telling me that you started playing it as if it was a different style of game. You said you would save state and then just keep going until you got past a segment and state. Like, you were saying you were playing it as if it was like an endless runner.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously I didn't do this for the earlier levels because it is quite an easy game at the start. But it does ramp up quite severely in probably worlds 6, 7, and 8. And I just thought, like, I can either just really frustrate myself and get those game overs and end up going back to the last save point, or I can just, like, use the save states, and it sounds bad, but I really abused the hell out of them in many ways, because the 2D, the challenge in 2D platforming is suited to a runner style game. That's how hard a lot of the latter levels are. This idea that you can actually get through them without checkpoints and without and obviously having to replay previous levels if you get a game over using a handful of lives is just ridiculous. Like, there was no way that I was getting game over, so I just decided, right, I'm just going to play this as a runner game, and I'm going to get past an obstacle, get past a few obstacles, make a save state, get past another few obstacles, make a save state, because I don't know, I just had more fun playing it that way. Now, obviously, I completed the game incredibly quickly in comparison to probably most people who have played this game without save states, but it was just the way I wanted to experience that game, and I don't know, if I hadn't done that, I would be even more critical of just how I just don't feel like it's aged very well, and it was just quite frustrating. Really, yeah. I mean, I'm sounding really negative on this, but I really prefer, in terms of the style, I prefer when you play an individual level. So 2D platformers I've played this year that I absolutely love in comparison to this game are Yoshi's Island, Wario Land 4, Shovel Knight, even DK Tropical Freeze. You play the individual level, and that's how you get, even if you get a game over, you start the level again. This game, like all the other Mario games, you go back to the last save point, and it's a bit broken.
I do feel like that was a thing, kind of a capsule in time, as it were, when you consider, a lot of people who were playing games were kids, right? And they probably wouldn't get many games at all, during the year, so they'd have this one game and they'd have it for a long period of time, and so as a result, these games were very difficult and they would take a lot of time to complete, and I think Mario World was kind of designed with that in mind, the fact that, it's going to last you a while, so it's going to be made to last you a while. You're going to go through these levels again and again. I think that's partly the reason why a lot of people have nostalgia for them, because they died so much that they replayed these levels so much that they are so ingrained in their brain, which is why they remember them so well. And maybe that, that kind of fondness has evolved from frustration in a strange kind of weird way. I'm not quite sure.
I get that. I just feel like, and you'll agree with me, that 2D platformers have evolved to the point where you can have that runner style, or even like in Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, where they're ever so slightly more generous on checkpoints, and you die, you go back to the checkpoint. This game is just, ugh, I don't know. I've already said it, but
so what about the other elements? The music and the visuals, and the general, I guess, aesthetic of the game. Do they do a lot of variety
cool
in terms of the environment, and they mix it up? And the Yoshi's in this game. How do you feel about him?
It's cool, and I think this is the first game Yoshi was ever in, actually, and
yeah, I believe so.
It works. Yoshi is a cool character to have. The cape is a cool item. I really hope they bring that back in another 2D game, if not maybe even a 3D game. I think that might be a cool weapon.
Ooh, yeah, that would be really interesting.
Item. Yeah. And yeah, the music is catchy. It's original, obviously. I do like the art and the music. And the cool thing about this game is that, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first game where really classic places in the Mario universe started. For example, the Donut Plains or the Choco Choco Mountains, or whatever they're called. Like this game, as far as I know, is the first time all these things appeared. And obviously the Koopa Kids, and they've really had some year in 2014 with both Mario Kart.
Yeah, it's a really weird renaissance that the Koopa Kids have had, somewhat strangely. I'm not sure why Nintendo felt the need to push them so heavily, but hey, we're stuck with them again, I guess.
So, like, enough. In terms of the way the levels are designed and the art and the music, I have no problems with this game. I have literally none. It's just the way that secret exits and the live system and checkpoints just make it that much more frustrating for someone like me, and that's the area where other 2D platformers, new and old, have it over this game. I mean, I think if you compare this game to Super Mario World 2, which was Yoshi's Island, the jump is absolutely gargantuan. I absolutely love Yoshi's Island. I think it has aged so well compared
Well, I
to
think
this
it's a hard point of comparison, because I do think they're very different games.
Oh yeah,
they've
just
they're both 2D platformers,
yeah.
but they mechanically they're so different, right?
Definitely.
They have such differences between them.
Yeah,
but I guess you definitely prefer that style more than this one.
Yeah, and it's just, I feel like Mario and perhaps Donkey Kong to some degree are the only series that are left doing this sort of live system. I mean, obviously Yoshi's got lives, but game over in Yoshi doesn't matter because you just restart the level. It doesn't matter, and that's the same for Donkey Kong. It's the game overs that take you back to levels ages ago that it's just drove me mental, and
it's too punishing.
It's too punishing. It might have worked for the time, but it doesn't now. And
I think especially when the levels that you're playing are that difficult, like
yeah.
it could be understandable if they were a little bit more manageable, but it's the level of difficulty combined with that system that totally. I understand. I completely understand where you're coming from.
And I have been very harsh on this game just now, but stuff like the ghost houses and the castles themselves are really well designed, really clever. I think the ghost houses are one area where it is quite fun to have secret exits, because that's the whole point of the level. It's to try and work out where the exit is. I don't think I had to use a guide on any of the ghost houses, surprisingly. I was really chuffed with that gaming achievement that I made. So the levels themselves, like I said, are really well designed. It's just the lives and the checkpoints. But I mean, if you play it the way I played it, it's actually a good game. Like I said, like save states, it works. But if you're expecting something that plays, I'm thinking of a modern 2D platformer, like, I don't know, Shovel Knight, it just does not work in comparison, in my opinion. And I'm sure there's still loads of people who absolutely adore this game. Perhaps for the nostalgia reasons you said before, NBZ, but perhaps because I genuinely do think it is a really great game. And yeah, it is a good game, but it's got its issues, and I've made those clear. But
fair enough.
It was interesting. It was interesting.
And you played it on a fucking aeroplane, so...
And I played it on an aeroplane,
cool.
so, yeah. But, I mean, it's making me a little less excited to go back and complete New Mario Bros. U, which I am going to do in 2015, and I just...
Begrudgingly, most likely.
Begrudgingly, but I don't have far to go with that game, and
sure.
It is considerably easier, even if I don't have save states, so we'll see.
And it'll feel good to tick off your list. So,
exactly.
So
love ticking off that backlog, Rena. You've hooked me.
Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about the game that I've been playing. So I mentioned this a couple of shows ago. Didn't get to talk about it last time just because of all the exams and everything that was going on. I hadn't got a lot of chance to play it. But this is Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and I made a proclamation, Bally, that 2015 would be the year of Castlevania for me. I am relying on Nintendo to actually release all those GBA games on Virtual Console. So, pending at the moment. If they do come out, they do. But if they don't, well, I don't know. Might have to find other means of playing them. But anyway, Castlevania, as I've said, it's a series that I have no experience with. And that needs to change. It really does, because I'm a huge fan of 2D Metroid, and... Metroid and Castlevania are very often mentioned in the same breath. In fact, in the same word, the phrase Metroidvania, coined by one Jeremy Parish, who, is a renowned video game journalist and writer, and, made a lot of sense, because as soon as Castlevania Symphony of the Night came out, people were heralding it as kind of the next development of kind of the Metroid-style game. And Castlevania is really fascinating, because... it takes a lot of those elements and improves on them, but also does very different things to Metroid. Let's just kick it off at the beginning. Like, the opening is so fucking cool. It's one of the coolest openings to a video game I've ever played. So you start off, and you are kind of the classic Castlevania protagonist. Have you watched some of the old Castlevanias on NES, Bally, before? Do you remember, like...
Perhaps.
Right, but can you remember, like, what the main character looks like? He kind of walks along very rigidly. He has a whip, and is just kind of very blocky. So you start off and you're playing as Richter Belmont, who's part of the family, the Belmont family, who kill vampires and whatever. And it's in that style. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I thought that they did something different with Symphony of the Night. So you're playing as him, and it starts you off at the final level of basically, a castle. You're at the end game. You're about to face Dracula. You go up these stairs, you go through the final hallway, and you're literally, the first thing you do is a final boss battle, which I thought was very interesting. Seems like a cue from Super Metroid.
Yeah, I was about to say.
You start out that game, and you're fighting Ridley at the very beginning. Yeah. Very similar, but even more epic. Like, this boss has 2 phases to him, and, you have super crazy abilities. Like, it's like everything's unlocked, and you are just wailing on him. Dracula turns into this giant monster, and you take him down, and then basically it cuts to black, and it's like you've defeated and everything's happened. And then it cuts to this new scene, and you see this new character rushing through a forest, and everything's going on in the background, and he jumps at the last minute over onto this bridge as the bridge is closing, and he dives into the castle. And it's the new character, Alucard. And he is, like, so much more badass than Richter is. He has, like, this cool cape. He has a giant sword that he swings. And I was just so surprised. I was like, whoa, this has pulled a fast one on me. I was expecting to play as Richter the whole game, and now I'm playing as this dude. Like, I'm not complaining, because he's way cooler, and he looks really, really badass. So you start off, and you're going through this corridor, slicing away at beasts, and you're super powerful, and then you eventually get to this point where they do the Metroid thing. They take your powers away from you. They take that awesome sword away, and kind of reduce you back to a kind of beginning state. So that's the opening. It's fucking great. I thought it was amazing. The only issue I have with it is that I had to play it twice. And that was because I died before I found a save point. And as such, there was no other way for me to do it other than to restart. So I was like, oh, it was so cool. But I mean, I'm kind of losing the impact here because I'm going through it again. But yeah, it starts super strong. And it only gets stronger from there. So you start out, and it's very linear. You're kind of gaining items as you go. And I think the main thing to point out with Castlevania, comparative to Metroid, is that it focuses way more on kind of RPG elements. You have stats. You have, a defense stat, an attack stat, like strength and intuition or intelligence, whatever you call it, dexterity. all the classic tropes of an RPG, and all these numbers are associated. And as you kill enemies, you level up. You're gaining experience, and you're getting stronger and stronger. And so I think the interesting comparison is that in Metroid, a lot of the time, the only reason you're going up against enemies is to get your health back if you've lost it, or to regain your missiles if you're quite low. In Castlevania, you are really encouraged to go around and kill everything. There's no, negative thing to leaving rooms unfilled with enemies. You should just go ahead and kill them, because all along the way you're making yourself stronger, you're leveling up, and you're building your character, and it makes a lot of sense in that way. So that's cool. I really enjoy that. And they also kind of make it similar to RPGs where you're equipping your character with equipment. So there's armor to collect, and there's swords and daggers and different kind of weaponry. You have like one-time use items, like a giant missile which will explode and do loads of damage to multiple enemies. And yeah, you have, you can equip 2 swords, 1 to each hand. The square and circle button act as different weapon slots, and you can even have a shield if you want to go more defensive. So it's really interesting in that sense.
Do you feel much more equipped than like a Metroid game?
To some degree, yes. You do feel. I mean, it's very different in terms of abilities. For the weapon stuff, it doesn't feel like stuff gets too varied. It's mainly swords. But when it comes to the actual abilities, like, turning into a bat, which allows you to literally fly anywhere throughout the castle, you don't have any boundaries for you, or turning into mist, which allows you to phase through different walls, those are really cool. And they're definitely not as many of them, and they're not as varied as in Metroid, but I really enjoyed the ones that you have, and they have multiple functionalities. So as I was saying, you have this mist, which is like, I guess, say in Metroid Fusion, you need to open the blue doors, but they're locked, so you need to go and unlock the thing. There are areas in Castlevania where you're going to be blocked off by, like, a grate, and the only way to get through the grate is to turn into mist and phase through it.
Oh, that's cool.
So there's puzzle-solving stuff with that, but also it's a really useful combat ability, because it allows you to just be immune to damage for a short period of time. So if you know that an enemy attack is coming, and it's going to be a really powerful one, you just turn into mist and kind of phase through it. So it has, like, I guess, the Beetle syndrome from Skyward Sword, where you have multiple ways you can use it, and I really like stuff like that. It makes a lot of sense, and is super intuitive and super smart. So that stuff's great. You turn into a bat, you can fly over the top of bosses if they're doing ground attacks and that kind of thing. So yeah, a lot of variance there. It's pretty great, gotta say. Another thing I wanted to point out was the idea of backtracking, right? In Metroid, a lot of things are locked from the beginning. You see a door up ahead, but you can't reach it because you don't have the high jump or the screw attack or anything to get there. So similar things happening in Symphony of the Night. The whole castle is rigged with areas you can get through at some points when you've unlocked the, set ability that you need to get there. But the way in which this game is way more streamlined in terms of going back for those things is the warp point system. So basically, across the castle, there are about 4 or 5 different warp points, and they look like kind of giant keyholes in the wall, and you phase through them, and you can basically go in a cycle between them. So you can't like go directly to a warp point that you want to. You have to keep going through like the list of them, as it were, and keep phasing, and eventually you'll get to the one you want, and then you can clear out whatever you want to do in the area, and it just makes things so much more convenient. It means that you're not wandering around and spending ages. Super Metroid is great, and it's all this interconnected world, but there's no quick way of getting anywhere. Sure, the abilities help, like the speed boost, and the screw attack will aid you in a lot of situations, but just the simple task of warping makes so much more sense, and it's something that I really hope that other Metroid style games try and implement a bit more. In the future, we're hoping the new 2D Metroid comes out, and I'm thinking that they should start taking some tips from this game. It would make a lot of sense for me. It just alleviates a lot of that downtime that isn't really necessary.
I think world traversal in Metroid games, out of the ones I've played at least, is actually, you sometimes think that it's going to take you a long time to get from A to B, but it never actually ends up taking you that long because of how well the worlds are interconnected and just well designed in general, I find.
Well, yeah, but there are certainly, for me, places where I would like to get somewhere faster, and there just isn't an option. You know, I would at least like an option for that to be available so that you could get quickly. And that's probably, I was kind of thinking about this, and it's probably why Fusion is my favorite Metroid game, is in a sense...
You never need to go to anywhere you've been previously necessarily. It's always forward motion, basically.
Not that, but more that... I guess the warp point area is the main deck of the bridge where you go down to the different zones. So you're never really having to worry about, you know, finding the path that leads through one place to another, because you know you can just zap up there, zap back down, and you're instantly where you need to be. So in that sense, definitely, I feel like it's more brethrened with Fusion, as it were. So there's loads of great stuff in Symphony of the Night, and I finished it, but I haven't finished it, which is kind of weird. There are multiple endings, and essentially if you finish the game in a certain way, you unlock a second version of the castle, which is like upside down and has way more bosses and loads of different hidden stuff, and there's a final secret boss, which is something that I will go back and do, but for the moment I think I'm going to leave it for a little while and see. But there's so much great stuff. You know, the bosses themselves can be kind of tackled in any order after a certain point. I had a situation where I was going up this dude called All Rocks, and he was kicking my ass every time. He was so powerful. He was like 5 levels higher than me, and he just had these attacks that were knocking me back and doing loads of damage that I couldn't, you know, find myself going up against. I was like, shit, do I really need to do this guy now? Is it really necessary? And so I was like, alright, I'm just going to go and wander around and do some other stuff. And in that intervening time, I found like 3 different bosses, all of which I was able to beat and get different things from. And then I went back after I'd done that, leveled up, got a bunch more equipment and was more powerful, and I beat him first time. And that sense of accomplishment and that ability to go back and kick bosses' asses when you previously weren't able to is something that Metroid just doesn't have. The only thing you can do in Metroid is gain more health points.
So it's not linear?
No, it really isn't. And I do feel that it benefits greatly from that, because it allows you to explore the castle so freely. It's so open from such an early stage. Within the first couple of hours, you are going through, you know, I guess a pretty linear series of corridors and that kind of stuff, but you will eventually gain the abilities to go everywhere, and once you have that, the world is your oyster. Like, you can do what you want when you want, and it's really a lot of fun. Like, it's just the idea of filling... you know how Ian and I got about Wind Waker and filling out all the blocks?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with the map. I want every segment to be blue. I want to colour in that map with my presence, you know? It's something that I really strive to do.
And you're like that about Metroid as well, though. So,
absolutely. And it was just made so much easier for me in this game. Castlevania is great. It also keeps a lot of the, old systems from the classic games. Previously, you know, in Castlevania you'd collect hearts, but hearts don't actually give you life. Hearts give you ammo for your sub-weapons, and sub-weapons are things like holy water and axes and daggers, like things that have more range to them generally, and basically use up a number of hearts for each usage. And so that system is still kept intact. You have your sub-weapons, and you're able to, you know, the more hearts you have, the more you can abuse them as you go through, and it's very easy to switch to ones that you want, because they'll randomly drop, and you'll say, I want to keep this one for a while, and you'll wait till another one randomly drops and switch it up. So that system is there, and it's great as a nice callback to the old games, but overall, just pretty fantastic. I will say that maybe in the animation department it certainly doesn't hold up as well as Super Metroid does, despite this being a PS1 game compared to the Super Nintendo. It's kind of surprising, you know, that this was even a release in that era, because there was such a desire for people to go 3D and do all these fantastic 3D games. It's a wonder that a 2D game actually exists on the PlayStation, but I'm so glad it does, because Symphony of the Night is one of those seminal experiences that you really need to play if you're a fan of these types of games, and I'm really excited to move on to some more, because I know that a lot of the GBA games get even better than this. So yeah, it's cool. It's a work in progress.
That's really cool, because you've been meaning to play that a long time, and it's good that you've tried one out and you've really enjoyed it, and now you're ready to get on with more.
Yeah, and quite honestly, I think I prefer it to Super Metroid. So Yeah, it's I just had a great time with it, and the fact that it was on my Vita was even better because you know me, I'm more a portable dude, and just getting that out whenever I can is what I'm all about. So yes, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, just play it. It's a classic, and once again, this year has all been about us revisiting classic. This episode has been 2 of those. So
yeah.
It's
anything else you want to mention?
Well, I played Pokemon, I guess. I played Pokemon Alpha Sapphire. I don't know, Bally. I think I'm done with this fucking series. I'm just like, I don't care about Pokemon anymore.
But I should still try X and Y because
You should try X and Y. X and Y is a lot of fun, actually. I enjoyed X and Y for what it was, but people have such fucking nostalgia-tinted glasses for the Hoenn region, and I'm just gonna be blunt. It's shit. It's not a good region. Like, it's poorly designed. The variety of Pokemon is so dull and repetitive. The amount of water types is just fucking ridiculous. The amount of stupid going through... Look, there's the IGN meme, too much water. I understand. But you know what? It's the fucking truth. It is so absolutely a problem that needed to be fixed and wasn't. And I just sat there for 2 days pushing my way through it, and I listened to podcasts half the time because I didn't really care, and I finished it. It was done. It's probably the least fun I've had playing a video game all year, and I don't really want to talk about it anymore, Bally. I don't want to talk about it. So let's just move on with our lives. Let's move on with our lives. Alright. Okay, so that is going to be all that we have been playing this time, but don't go anywhere because coming up after the break, we are going to be jumping into some of your emails regarding Game of the Year. So we will be right back. Don't go anywhere. Okay, everyone, we return here for our email segment, and this time, of course, we're going to be addressing some of the games of the year that you sent to us. Unfortunately, we didn't get as many responses as we would have liked, so it's a bit of a small segment here, but, if you want to get your voice heard on the air and want to, let us read out your games of the year, then you could have done that, but it's too late now. Could have been part of the show, but now we're going to
be in time for next year.
Absolutely. Make sure we fix this next year, guys. We've got to get a bigger push here. But for now, Bally, you have some emails, so let's get into them.
The first email was from Michael, and he very simply said, Bayonetta 2.
Nothing else there.
Nothing else. Just favorite game of the year is Bayonetta 2. So that's one for Bayonetta.
Well, excellent. I think that's not very surprising. I think a lot of people are going to have Bayonetta 2 as their game of the year. It really seems like the front runner critically, and for a lot of people, especially if you own a Wii U, it seems like people are generally picking that as their number one. So, not surprising.
So our next email was from Simon. Hello, my game of the year is Mario Kart 8. Number 2 would be Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, and 3, Bayonetta 2. The game I actually spent the most time on was Hyrule Warriors, and he's over 100 hours and counting. Happy holidays,
wow.
Simon Suker from the Netherlands. I do apologize if I've murdered your surname, but I struggle with some names.
Well, it's always great to have Dutch listeners. Of course, I did live in Holland for a few years when I was very young, so it's always great to hear.
Excellent.
But yeah, it's a good selection he has there, Bally. I think a lot of those games are some of your favourites as well. And we've got Bayonetta 2 also, obviously, featuring in many people's lists, and Hyrule Warriors. Now, Hyrule Warriors is one that neither of us played this year, Bally, and I'm not sure either of us...
You came very close.
Right, it was a very close call there with Hyrule Warriors, because I was thinking, oh god, fan service, and it could be a lot of fun. But I'll tell you what, the best decision I made all year was taking that money and spending it on Bayonetta 2 instead. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie.
They came out quite close together as well, didn't they?
It was about a month apart, I think.
Yeah.
Or a couple of months, yeah. But yeah, Hyrule Warriors is still one of those things that if I see it for like £10 somewhere, I'll probably pick it up just out of morbid curiosity, other than anything else, because I don't think I'll have a huge amount of fun with it, quite honestly. But it'll be a thing that I could just play,
Need a price drop.
Whatever. Yeah, need a price drop, really. But yeah, I'll get there eventually. Do you think you'll ever get there with Hyrule Warriors, Bally, or are you sworn off it for life?
It has to be really low price, and I'm never gonna play 100 hours of it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think that's not happening for either of us.
So yeah, I'm not putting my foot down on this one yet. So a final email. He's kind of stealing the show a bit. It's Daniel Bunzelmeyer.
Oh, of course, he's got to steal the show. He knows,
exactly.
He knows us well. So,
Mr. NBZ and Mr. Bally, it is I back again. I apologise for the long hiatus in writing messages. A new job has thrown my routine out of whack, but I'm back now and writing in with my played Game of the Year for 2014. So this is what we were doing last week for myself and NBZ, our top 10 games we played this year that didn't come out this year. So, here's number 5, Mario Golf World Tour. Maybe I haven't played that many games this year, but I haven't owned a Mario Golf game since the one for Game Boy Color. It's a meter golf game, but hey, if you're looking for a pick up and play game to fill a few minutes, you can't get too much better than this. It's a bright, colourful game with a surprisingly solid soundtrack, and the online tourneys give it a very high replay value.
Were you ever interested in picking up Mario Golf Bally for 3DS? Because a lot of people seem to really love it, and it seems like a very solidly put together game.
The difference between myself and Daniel in this situation is that I've played relentlessly the Game Boy Color version, the N64 version, and then by far the most hours I invested in the Mario Golf game was the GameCube version. And basically, I'm a bit burned out on Mario Golf, and as far as all the reviews and things I've read, they don't really change the formula much at all. But had I never played a Mario Golf game, don't get me wrong, I think I would have picked up this 3DS version. But I'm just a bit burned out on it, and they really need to reinvent the series somehow. I think it's Camelot behind it, so yeah.
Right, and well, I mean, it would be nice to have the RPG mode added, but I think they did a really solid job with the online. A lot of podcasts I listened to, a lot of people were talking about how the tournaments was set up really well so that you could, basically have simultaneous play on holes, and it would be just super well set up. So if nothing else, I think the online is certainly a good draw there. So.
Yeah, that might be one I pick up in the future. I don't know. There's a few other 3DS games I'm definitely going to pick up before it. Anyway, yeah. Number 4 for Daniel, Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. This is one that could move up the list very quickly the more I can play it more. That's a bit wording. My friend let me borrow it, and I don't have a GameCube memory card, so all I can vouch for is a few hours at the beginning, but that art style is just great. It says a lot about the caliber of this game that I can play this little of it and make it up, and it can make it up this high. Get a memory card. Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know how much I adored playing Wind Waker this year, so I can certainly vouch for that. It's it makes a strong impression, art style wise, and just game wise. It's just pretty fantastic. So
I would also be interested to find out how far you got after a few hours, because I think this game is a little bit slow at the start, kind of, because you've got the Forsaken Fortress, which is very frustrating the first time round. There's an awful lot of sneaking around, and if you don't know what you're doing, it can be quite frustrating. So I'd say that this game really opens up It'd probably take me about an hour and a half, 2 hours to get to the point where it opens up, but that's where you get the boat and the sail, so you can like go out to sea, and that's when this game really hits you. So I do hope you managed to get that far, Daniel, but if not, definitely start that game again, get past the Forsaken Fortress, and yeah, experience the rest of this game, because it is, obviously, I absolutely love this game. So yeah,
I guess slow starts is something that a lot of recent Zelda games have been doing, aside from Link Between Worlds, which kind of got us straight into the action. So I'm kind of hoping that the Wii U game just drops us in and says go, and doesn't have any of that nonsense going on. So we'll see, but hopefully they'll have learned that. All right, what's his next game?
Number 3, Portal 2. A late edition. I purchased this game for $3.50 during the recent Steam sale, and boy, that may be the best purchase of all time. I really haven't played all that much of it, but Portal is way up the list on my favourite games of all time. And with all of the extra content in this, I can already tell I love this game. Look for this to show up on my to-played games for next year when I've finished.
Portal 2's fantastic. I'll tell you what, as soon as I got a PS3, one of the first games I went out and bought was Portal 2, because it had just come out, a couple of months beforehand. I'd heard so many great things about it, and I was just so curious about this first-person puzzle game that had this incredibly crazy mechanic, and I just, I adored it. I think the problem I have with Portal is that I get motion sick quite easily in games that involve
Yoshi's Island.
Well, I mean, it's really first-person puzzle games that it's hard for me. I think first-person shooters are a bit different because of the distinction with the gun and being able to go to the sights and that kind of thing. But when it comes to a puzzle game, it can be a little bit disorienting, especially with Portal, where sometimes you're falling through holes which come out of the sides of walls and under walls, and it just, you really get a lot of disorientation going on. So I had to play it at like 1 hour at a time before feeling sick and having to stop. But despite that, I had to push through that, because the game was so utterly fantastic, and I'm really pleased that you are finally getting to play the second one. I've also played the first one on PC, and that's great too. So they're both kind of genre defining. They honestly, Bally, like I have to say that Portal and Portal 2 are a couple of games that, as a Nintendo fan, you would really appreciate. They have just incredible design sensibility, and a lot of influence from Metroid Prime, I feel, in terms of the first-person platforming department. So, absolutely, great games, good stuff there.
Cool. Here's number 2. This is slightly breaking the rule, but his number 2 is Shovel Knight.
Well, he already broke the rule because Mario Golf came out this year.
Oh, that's true. You are right.
So he's just giving us a list of everything he's played this year, no matter what.
Shovel Knight. I knew when Steam started that holiday sale, if Shovel Knight went on sale, I was going to get it. After hearing all of the hype, I knew I wanted that game. Well, it went on sale today, and after a couple of hours and a grueling boss fight against the Spectre Knight, all I can say is wow. Wow! I seldom ever have that much fun with a modern game, let alone an 8-bit game. The controls are super tight and the platforming is so much fun. Honestly, it was the biggest toss-up between this and the next game. And you could ask me 1,000 times to decide, and I'd never give the same answer twice in a row. If there's a way you could just make them a co-number 1, that's probably the most accurate.
And what is his co-number 1?
And the co-number 1 I'll read out is Fire Emblem Awakening. It was really close call after playing some Shovel Knight, because that game is really, really good. My 2014 game of the year by far. But what can I say? Fire Emblem Awakening is one of the best I've played in a long time. I wrote a long email about the game earlier this year, singing its praises, and my opinion has not softened a bit. But what a close call between Shovel Knight and this. The only thing that put this game over the top for me was the full orchestra music. I'm a sucker for that, thanks to my concert violinist wife, and the depth and replayability of the classes and marriages. Game of the Year 2014.
Excellent stuff. I mean, if I had to choose between Fire Emblem Awakening and Shovel Knight, I feel like I would be in a very similar position. Although probably, as Daniel has done here, I'd probably take Fire Emblem as the number 1. But certainly fantastic games, and a real cream of the crop that he's had as picks here. So it's great stuff. Thanks, Daniel. It's a very good list.
And he does do a final sort of sum up of proper game that came out this year, Game of the Year.
Okay.
So he says, a brief thought on the actual Game of the Year, because he was just fooling with us before.
Yeah.
I haven't actually played that many of the contenders, but as someone who's followed the games media heavily and knows something about these games, it seems that the two that would be at the top of my list as a fellow Nintendo fan would be Bayonetta 2 and Shovel Knight. They seem to have gotten the least negativity of all the games. I haven't played Bayonetta, so I won't deliberate any further, but looking at the style of games, I can definitely say those two look the most fun to play and should be the top of anyone's list. Okay, if I have to pick, I pick Shovel Knight.
Well, there you go. Very fitting. Very fitting indeed. Okay, a great set of games there from Daniel, and thank you for the other few that we had. Yeah, so that's
But NBZ, what is your favourite game of the year?
Well, Bally, I can't tell you yet, because, of course, in our next segment, we are going to be going over our personal top 5 games of the year for 2014. So, thank you once again for the emails. You can always find us at our email address, which is, Bally,
NYPPQuestions@gmail.com. Send them in. We always need more.
Yes, we do. Certainly for the new year, we have maybe a couple, but we need more emails, so please do that so we can talk about stuff. How about you tell us what you got for Christmas? That'd be a good email topic. We could discuss that next time, and hopefully there's some new Wii U owners among you, because I'm sure that a lot of people are starting to pick up that system now that it has picked up the steam from this year. Okay, that's going to be us for this segment. We'll see you in a second. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back very soon. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, for the last segment of 2014. Can you believe it?
Wow.
It's the final segment of the show for the year. It's been a crazy one, and we're going to end it in crazy style with, of course, our top 5 games of the year. So, Bally, we both have lists here of games. Let's explain a little situation. So
I just don't play enough games is the problem.
No, you play plenty of games. You just don't buy enough games, Bally. Your wallet is not open enough to buy new games. You're going through backlogs, and that is very understandable. But in order to make this
I don't have
list work,
Steam.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Although we should clarify, this list is going to be Nintendo-only games. There's not going to be any cross-pollination here from stuff that I've played from other platforms. We're going to do Nintendo exclusives. And Bally has played 5 games, but technically not, because Smash Brothers is a franchise, and as such there are 2 entries. So what Bally has done is he's split Smash Brothers. Which one is going to come where in his list, you'll have to find out. But it's obvious it's going to be on my list as well. You guys know that from the outset. But obviously the thing you want to know is the positioning. Where is it on our lists? So that's a little caveat at the start, to make sure that you are all aware of what's happening. And regarding Smash Brothers, on my side, I've lumped them both together. So, there you go.
Just to squeeze an extra game onto your list.
Absolutely, absolutely. Alright, so Bally, how about we kick things off with your number 5?
Well, my number 5 is Smash Brothers 3DS.
Well, that's a good job I explained that.
Exactly,
Bally,
so now everyone knows what I'm talking about. So yeah, this came out in October.
Yeah, I mean, it was really interesting because we had that sort of period between having this and having the Wii U version where there was only one version of Smash that you could play, and you kind of had to get used to it. And as a result, it was a learning experience that I found really valuable, especially in the department of the controls, because as we found out, it turned out to be really difficult to find GameCube controller adapters anywhere in the world, and if you weren't willing to spend like £100 or dollars, you were pretty much out of luck, unless you'd pre-ordered super early. So what it allowed me to do personally was to learn what the hell Smash Bros. 3DS controlled like, and then transfer those skills onto the Wii U Pro controller, which was really nice, honestly.
And you were really allergic to the idea before of... Maybe allergic's not the right word, really.
I think allergic probably is the right word, actually.
Yeah, you were allergic to trying out using the Wii Pro controller, which I was sort of forcing myself to get into for a number of reasons. First of all, because when you transfer your data from the Wii to the Wii U, it means you can no longer use GameCube pads to play Smash Bros. Brawl. So I was sort of training myself for that reason, but then it just kind of worked out in the end, because that has become, broadly speaking, the way people play, in terms of button layout, the way people are playing Smash 3DS and the new Smash Brothers on Wii U. So yeah, it's worked out well for me at least, and I think you have now learned how to use that sort of control set properly, would you say?
Yeah, I've definitely become competent at it.
Yeah,
I'll give you that, no doubt.
less Johnning about it.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
Sure.
So
sorry, go ahead.
No, I wasn't going to say that. This is your game.
I was going to say that this
list.
game had such an impact for me, well, and you, I'm sure, because, I mean, what year did Brawl come out? 2006? 8?
Oh, yeah, it was, I think, beginning of 08.
Beginning of 08.
Years.
So, yes, 6 years ago. Like, 6 years wait for a Smash Brothers game. If you're a Nintendo fan, it's just a really, really long time. So, we were just chomping at the bit to get, like, have a go on, like, a brand new Smash Brothers game. And
we should mention, prior to this, we actually got access to the demo, right? The 3DS demo, which was a real appetite whetter, because you got a couple of new characters to mess around with, and you also just had the bare basics. So you were just kind of getting used to the controls really well, and the mechanics, and how it flowed in comparison to Brawl. And honestly, like, this game is so much faster, in my opinion, than Brawl is. It's
definitely
so much smoother.
I think I already prefer it far more than Brawl, just in terms of fighting physics and things like that.
Certainly.
And you know what? For me, even at that early stage of playing the 3DS, once we'd had a few goes online, I was preferring it to Melee as well. And like, I think I still probably do prefer it to Melee, because, I mean, it's the best character roster yet by a long way, and the physics for the fighting feel great. And on top of that, it's the first Smash Brothers game that had a working online functionality, which we played an absolute ton of, like getting on our laptops most nights and being like, right, let's fight. And we were like, we played a good few nights just back to back, like, yeah, Toon Link, Lucina, working out who our other mains were going to be, and like that, all those skills we acquired transitioned so nicely onto the Wii U version.
And, I mean, we did have some more laggy matches. I would say the 3DS is certainly inferior when it comes to online to the Wii U, but it was the first time it was really properly playable, which was exciting.
And it was during those sort of spots where there were genuine spots where it was working seamlessly, and we were just sort of so, hey, we're actually playing online right now, talking on Skype. It's really seamless. This is amazing, and you almost took it for granted at times, because it just felt like local multiplayer experience almost.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really great. And I think the interesting thing about Smash 3DS is it's where we started learning what all the characters did and what all the stages were like. Because, I mean, by the time you get to Wii U, you already know everything, right?
Yeah.
You've had the time to test out every brand new character, to figure out the movesets of everyone, and to see what's changed and what's new and what's different. So that was really the most exciting part for me, and that's probably why I played so much, like, classic mode, and just going through and fighting a bunch of different people and trying to do all the challenges. Certainly, I dedicated myself to doing a lot of the challenges on Smash 3DS, and haven't done that so much on the Wii U version. Would you tend to agree that that was what you were doing, more single player stuff?
Yeah, I did do a lot of single player. I think you in general were a bit hotter on the single player stuff than me.
I think overall I probably am.
Yeah, and I don't know, I just think that even if you took the single player out of this game completely, it would still be a really great game in my eyes because the online multiplayer and the trophies are just amazing, and I really like it.
Yeah, Smash 3DS is it's so great that it exists, you know, because despite the fact that we probably won't go back to it on a day-to-day basis, when you're away, you know, and you don't have access to Wii U, it's there, you know, you can play it on the tube, for God's sake. That's something you couldn't have done before.
I've definitely been playing quite a bit on the tube, which has been good fun.
Excellent.
So yeah, if you see me on the tube, I'm up for a match.
We should also mention that with next year, the new 3DS is coming out, so hopefully that'll make Smash even more playable, because you'll be able to use Miiverse on 3DS, and you'll have access to the C-Stick, as well as more shoulder buttons. There's extra 2 shoulder buttons going in there, which pretty much makes it a 100% mimic of the Wii U Pro Controller at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure that when you get your new 3DS, you should try Smash 3DS out and let us know how it does, Bally.
Yeah, so. I mean, it'd be really nice if Nintendo would just do a launch date for Europe for the system.
Yeah. You never know. There might be a Nintendo Direct right around the corner, Bally.
I know. Probably just after we finished recording this, and it'll just muck up the edit entirely.
Absolutely, but that's we wouldn't have it any other way. Exactly. That's how we roll in this show. All right, excellent. So moving on to my number 5, we're going to do a thing where if my number whatever appears lower down or higher up, should I say, on Bally's list, I'm not going to mention it until we get there. So my number 5 appears on Bally's list later on.
And you won't have to wait long, because my number 4 and your number 5, NBZ, is Mario Kart 8.
There we go, Mario Kart 8. So Bally, if you listen to this podcast, you would get the impression that I fucking hate Mario Kart 8 and I think it should burn. I've definitely cooled down my opinions on the game, certainly.
I think the DLC might have helped as well.
Oh yeah, that's certainly been a nice injection, for sure. That's been a thing that has helped bring me back to play the game again and kind of realise that, yeah, there are some good things here that I certainly can appreciate. So where do we begin here? I think the first thing that we should talk about is how good it looks, right? That's the one standout for me, honestly, is how pretty Mario Kart 8 is in comparison to its predecessors.
Absolutely, and that is where it stands out the most for me entirely, because it is my favourite Mario Kart in conjunction with Double Dash, and it's...
So you're not going to push the boat out and say it's better, are you? You're just going to keep the tie going there? I'm
going to keep the tie going because I think we have to be critical about the amount of innovation in terms of the series this has, and
absolutely.
And when you compare that to something like Double Dash, Double Dash has to be the most innovative Mario Kart, and has to be, for that reason, my joint, I'd say. I don't know, maybe I'm just being a bit pernickety.
Well, certainly not. I think the innovation question is certainly something that needs to be brought up. You know, you talk about Smash Brothers single player not necessarily being for you, but you can't deny the depth and breadth of modes that it has to offer. It has so much.
Yeah.
You take a look at Mario Kart single player, it's so thin. It's paper thin, and it really, you know, if you're not going online and playing against people, I don't know why you're buying Mario Kart, because it's really not a good experience in a single player setting.
I mean, it is basically the Wii version, but up graphics, better music, I'd say. Definitely that's a high point. And then it's basically the same modes, completely repeated. And I mean, obviously the DLC is great, but in terms of new stuff it brings to the series, it's basically just polishing an existing framework, which I'm not complaining about necessarily, because I think it does what it wants to do really, really well. I just feel like there's now a ton of pressure to innovate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, a sticking point was controls back a while ago, but I think I've kind of got over that to some degree. It's more to do, I think, with the fact...
so much on this.
Yeah, well, I think Mario Kart 7 is the best controlling Mario Kart by a country mile. It's so smooth and works so seamlessly. Mario Kart 8 had some issues with. I think maybe to some degree it has to do with, you know, the setup you make with your car and your kart, and how that feels to, you know, drift around corners and to get the right speed and everything. So that is a little bit of a problem, is what setup do I go with? But also, I was playing with the gamepad to begin with, and I think the Pro Controller is definitely a much better option. I didn't have one when Mario Kart came out, but I got one later, and as I got used to it, it became a little bit easier, and I knew what I was doing, so I kind of fell into it. But I still think that Mario Kart 7 controls much better. But it's definitely not as big a point as it was in the past. So, yeah.
And I mean, we have to give so much credit to Nintendo for that DLC, because we said this before on the show, but like they really couldn't have done that DLC much better. It's so that is one area that is refreshing. So I should maybe swallow some of my criticisms, but yeah, the Zelda inclusion with Link and the Zelda track, the F-Zero track, the Excite Bike track, it's just really nice to see, and there's
still more to come, because next year we have the Animal Crossing characters, as well as some 8 more tracks. So by the time we get to May of next year, 50% of the game will have been added for a quarter of the price, which is pretty astounding.
I would even put money on a third DLC pack coming in time for holiday 2015.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Nintendo know that their big money makers are going to be the Mario Karts and the Smash Brothers. Why not peddle DLC for as long as they can? They're not going to make a whole new game, but they now have the ability to do this, and if they do it well, which so far, track record, knock on wood, has been pretty fantastic. So, yeah, I'm certainly looking forward to more of that stuff.
Metroid track, please, a Metroid track like that.
Please, a Metroid game, Bally. Please, a Metroid game.
And an F-Zero game. Let's just wish for everything. But yeah,
let's wish for everything and get nothing in return. But hey,
in return, yeah,
absolutely. But there you go, Mario Kart 8, bottom of my list, number 4 for Bally. I guess we move on to my number 4 then. Absolutely. So my number 4 is Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright. Indeed. Great 3DS game. I was really kind of skeptical of this one before it came out, because I had heard on, I believe it was the 8-4-Play podcast maybe a year and a half ago, someone who had come on there was a huge Phoenix Wright fan, and she was kind of going through the rankings of the Phoenix Wright games, and she put Layton versus Wright at the bottom, and I was like, ooh, that's kind of harsh. I'm not sure how well that's actually turned out, but for me personally, I think it was really fantastic. It took 2 universes that I'm pretty familiar with and just threw them into this blender that made a lot of sense. You kind of hear about it and you think, yeah, if you are going to take 2 characters from third parties in the DS universe, I think those 2 kind of fit together pretty well. They both have kind of detective-y parts to them and kind of, figuring stuff out. So it made a lot of sense that they were going to be in a single game as one. And I think it was very impressive. It was a great package. The puzzles and stuff may have been a little easier than previous Layton games, and the courtroom scenes may have been made easier because you had access to the hint coins. But I do think overall it was just well done and so much better paced. I said this quite a lot, but it was so nice to have a segment of gameplay laid out for you where you could play through for like an hour and a half or an hour and be done and be like, right, that's me done for the night, turn off 3DS, play a bit more tomorrow. And, by doing that, I was able to get through it in about 2 weeks, which is certainly way faster than I've ever completed a Phoenix Wright game before, or any Layton game. And the pacing is certainly, to pay for that, most certainly. So.
Sorry for my silence. There's not much I can say about this game, having not played it. And
I mean,
it's a long way down the line in terms of a game I would even end up playing, because I'd rather try other games in both those series respectively first. Would you say? We've had this discussion,
yeah. Bally. Let's deja vu. I do think this is actually a good way for you to just
jump
in. Both in one.
Okay. Yeah. Could maybe go for that then. But yeah. That might be on my list of things to do for 2015.
Yes, add it to the never-ending list of games that I recommend.
Honestly. So many of the games I played this year were under your recommendations, even some that you hadn't played before, like Assassin's Creed. But
Yeah.
Anyway, I digest, as I said before. I digress.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. Not a huge amount more to say. The one cool thing I never really mentioned about it before, but what they did after the main game was finished is every week they would release a kind of mini chapter, a bonus kind of addendum to the main game, which had like a couple of puzzles in it and a little bit more story. And I think they did that for a good couple of months, so there's like 8 or 9 of those like mini extras that I could go back and unlock if I wanted and play through. So there's additional content there absolutely for free. It's not really DLC. I think it's probably on the cartridge but unlocks over time. But this is something that they did with Layton on DS. Kind of the first DS DLC, as it were, is every week the online service would ping and you'd be able to download a brand new puzzle, and that would keep you going for like the rest of the year, because they do want, I think, quite consistently. So that was great. Yeah, keep doing your thing, Capcom, with Phoenix Wright. Don't let me down, because I'm a fan of the series and I want to see more. So there you go. That's that. Number 4, Miiverse is right.
I guess we are on to number 3, where we both have the same game. Now this game...
What a shocker.
Yeah, I know. And this game hit us in November, I want to say, for Europe at least. Yeah, so we both downloaded this game, and we both just rattled through it and just absolutely loved it. And that game is Shovel Knight. To remind people... I
can't not say
the music is just great. We need to stick that at either segment of this segment, because it's so great. Either end of this segment, I should say. But we should also remind listeners that I played the Wii U version and you played the 3DS version. So
yeah,
we covered all bases with that one. Yeah, I absolutely love this game. I was really not up for buying this when it came out in North America, and then for some reason you have this power over me, NBZ. You're just like, Bally, you need to play this game. I'm like, okay, I will play this game, and I absolutely loved it. So really glad I did pick it up. I must have raced through it in it took me a lot longer than it took you, because you have the 2D prowess I just don't quite have at this point in time.
Look, I've been trained on ye old Mega Man 2, so I've got the chops, man. I got the chops to rattle my way through a classic NES-inspired 2D action game. So that's what I'm all about. But no, I mean, so many good things to say about Shovel Knight. The music is so memorable and so fantastic, and we could just gloat about it for ages and ages. But there are so many great things about it. The design is so retro-inspired, but so beautifully modern as well. There are so many great things about the checkpointing system and the lack of lives, which old games didn't do, and therefore it has this modern feel to it despite keeping that classic design sensibility. It looks nice. There's really great art design going on there. It's just a complete package, and really proof that Kickstarter can bring us some great things. This is kind of the year where a lot of Kickstarter projects start to be released, having gone through like the 2012 boom of everyone starting a Kickstarter. There was Broken Age Part 1 that came out at the start of the year. Loads of other things that have been dropping, and Shovel Knight, certainly the shining gem amongst them, is gleaned the most praise of any Kickstarter game to date, and I am really, really glad that it's done so well, because it means that Yacht Club will have the ability to go on and do bigger and better stuff, and hopefully maybe a sequel possibly sometime in the future.
And it's really nice that they went with console exclusive for Nintendo. I mean, obviously it's on PC as well, and it's going to become available on PS4 next year, isn't it?
Right, with Kratos as a boss.
So it was really nice that they went with Nintendo first, and hopefully that sets a precedent that could result in further indie titles thinking, you know what, let's go for the Wii U, because it sells well. I don't even know if it sold that well. I don't know.
It sold 300,000 copies combined between platforms, I believe, which I wouldn't say is a huge amount, but it's certainly done decently. There's no doubt, and it's definitely going to do even better when it comes to PS4 and Vita. There's no doubt about that. They'll help it quite a bit.
Yeah, it'd be great if there was a sequel. And there's you think there's DLC coming, don't you? Because they have these targets that were reached, and you think it's going to be free DLC.
Yeah, well, there were stretch goals as part of their Kickstarter.
So hopefully there'll be more Shovel Knight to be played in 2015.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll hopefully talk about that when it drops.
But yeah, I definitely recommend anyone who owns a Wii U or a 3DS just go ahead and download this game because it's not that expensive and it's so much fun.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, number 2, Bally. How about you tell us what that game is for you?
My number 2 is Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze.
Ta-da! Best music of 2014, Giant Bomb, right? Right?
Not quite, but Dan tried hard.
He did a good job, that old Riker, he did.
Yeah. This was really tight between this and my number 1. So even calling it number 2 is maybe unfair on this game because this is easily my favorite single player experience of the year, if I can at least call it that. Because this came out way back in February, I want to say, or was it January?
I think, yeah, right at the start of the year, probably February time. So basically, the point at which everyone would forget about it by the end.
Yeah. So when it came out, the sort of Nintendo fanboy in me was just like, I have to buy the most recent, shiniest Nintendo game for my Wii U. And it was just like, I had no other reason why I wanted to buy it. It was just a really lame kind of, I have to play the most recent Nintendo game. I'd never played a Donkey Kong Country game before. You'd obviously played Returns and loved it, but you said like, Bally, I don't know, hold off, it'll come down in price. I was like, fine, I'll hold off. And then like it did come down in price, and they actually did a Donkey Kong Country sale. So I picked up this game alongside Donkey Kong Country 1, and that is sitting in my backlog, ready and raring to go. Ready and raring to go for 2015. And I absolutely loved this game. I mean, I only just talked about this game, I think, 2 episodes ago. So go check out episode 28, I want to say, or 27, 28.
Mm-hmm.
So I absolutely loved it. The music and the art were incredible, but the platforming is so solid as well, and it's all
about precision.
Really, loads of precision. Really tough platformer. Definitely the hardest 2D platformer I think I've ever played. But on top of that, I'm proud to say that I do think this is my favorite 2D platformer I've ever played. And I'm not saying I've played a huge number, but this is my favorite 2D platformer, and like I really want to see more. I want to experience, first of all, Returns, and secondly, like the other Donkey Kong Country games, although I appreciate that they won't have quite the finesse that this one does. But I really hope that there'll be more 2D Donkey Kong in the future, because, damn, this game was so good. Like, I just loved it.
Yeah, well, you more than me, certainly. I think the thing that I take away from Donkey Kong is I wish that it was built more like Super Meat Boy, in the sense that it has all those challenging aspects, but it punishes you way too much, and I don't appreciate that. I think that, you know, the design sensibilities with lives needs to just fuck off. Like, that's so old and outdated, and Nintendo just consistently keep doing it in all their 2D platformers, and it literally makes no sense, and it annoys me to no end. That's one of the reasons I love Shovel Knight so much, because Yacht Club have the fucking sensibility to get rid of lives and understand that it's an outdated concept. But, you know, ranting aside, it's still a damn good game, so I understand totally why you've got it on the list.
Yeah, and like you were saying before, it's getting a lot of praise online for not enough journalism outlets, I should say, not mentioning it enough as Game of the Year contenders, because, I mean, like we said, it came out right at the start of the year, so it has kind of drifted out of mind for a lot of people, and that's a real shame, because, like I said, this is the most awesome 2D platformer I've ever played, and I just want to spread the word. Like, this game really does a lot that I enjoyed. And I mean, David Wise wasn't around for Returns, and they brought him back for this game. So that is one area that I'm sure it's different to Returns. I mean, you felt that it hadn't perhaps changed a lot between Returns and this one.
Yeah, not particularly. But it's still pretty solid.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's get on to my number 2, which I can't say yet because it is in fact Bally's number 1. So why not talk about it right now. What is this, Bally?
That game for me is Smash Brothers Wii U. And
Smash Brothers yet again. Revenge of the Smash. It's come right back here. Yeah, Smash Brothers. We talk about it all the time. It's fucking great. It's a brilliant game. I like it. Amiibos.
I have just been in San Diego, and I was in GameStop the other day because we were just passing a GameStop, and I thought, oh God, might as well check out a GameStop. You know, I'm in America, I gotta experience their how they view games. You know, and then I sort of walked into the shop, and then as per, you know, the Wii U's got its own little tiny corner, but that tiny corner is mainly taken up by one thing, and that is Amiibos. So yeah, I bought myself a Mario Amiibo.
Probably one of the better looking ones.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say. I think, of really the choices out there, I think you got to go with something like Samus, Yoshi, Kirby, or Mario. Those are the ones that don't have any stupid plastic sticking out of them, and have nice details and just work really because they're so cartoony.
And yeah, he looks great. His fireball is like made of rubber. It feels solid. I was really quite concerned about, I think it was NVC talking about how tacky they were feeling and almost like a McDonald's toy. I completely disagree. I think they're far better quality than that.
Oh yeah, no doubt. My Samus, which I'm not sure if I even talked about this on the show yet, but I broke down and I bought one. So I bought a Samus Amiibo, and
what's happened to us?
It's pretty weighty. Yeah, I don't know, Bally. We got look. This was for research purposes.
This is for the podcast.
This moment could happen.
This is for you guys at home listening.
Yes, I hope you appreciate. We spent our hard-earned money on fucking Amiibos. So, yeah. Anyway, my Samus one feels pretty not heavy, but it has a good heft to it. It has a decent weight, to the point at which this is definitely no kind of McDonald's toy quality thing. I can say that with confidence, no doubt about it.
And there was a guy next to me in the shop at GameStop actually saying to me yeah, I'm gonna get all of them, and he was in the process of checking out every retail outlet, and he's like, oh yeah, Best Buy's got this, Toys R Us has that, and he was giving me all this chat that I'd been hearing from Nintendo Voice Chat at IGN, and I was just like, oh my God, he's literally this guy is Brian Altano, but he's that guy who's just decided I'm going to get every single one, and I'm sure he's
got to catch them all.
Exactly, and I'm sure some of you guys out there are going to get every single one. Maybe not the majority of you, but I'm sure there's one or two. So no disrespect, but that's freaking crazy. Every single Amiibo, I've decided.
So much money.
Exactly,
so much money.
I was explaining to the guy I've just decided to get two. It's going to be for me Mario, and I'm also going to get Toon Link. And I know you've got Shulk pre-ordered, NBZ.
Yeah, I kind of had to pre-order Shulk because he's gonna go quickly. He's gonna be probably the shortest print run of any Amiibo in history. No one knows who Shulk is. If you haven't played Xenoblade, then you don't care enough about him to know who he is. So yeah, unfortunate as that may be.
I think we're both.
Hopefully, I'll get one.
Do you think we'll both stop on 2, or are you gonna go for 3 and get a Lucina?
Well, I'm never going to say never, Bally, because we don't know what Nintendo are going to be doing in the future of Amiibo,
true.
right?
That is very true.
They could potentially release a whole new line that look way better because they're, with some other game. I'm sure that they're going to start, making more Amiibo compatible with newer games, and obviously I think Mario's definitely a solid choice because he will be compatible across so many products. He's their main mascot, so he's going to be. And and I kind of bought Samus on this vain hope that a Metroid game gets announced and uses her.
Why not?
That's potential.
And your me on Mario Kart is dying to wear a Lucina costume, so I mean, it's only makes sense.
That's totally not going to happen. They're not going to patch that
Fire
shit into
Emblem
Mario
track,
Kart. Are you kidding me? Come on. Holy shit. Can you imagine? I think I would die of happiness if they add a Fire Emblem track to Mario Kart 8 could be my game of the year next year for Fire Emblem DLC.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure titles such as Metroid or perhaps maybe Pokemon, I don't know, I'm sure they're higher up the list in terms of tracks that might be made for Mario Kart, but after that, Fire Emblem must be up there.
I wouldn't put my money
on
it.
We'll see,
sure.
but yeah.
Well, anyway, we didn't really talk about them in Smash Brothers, so they're kind of cool. You can level them up, you can fight against them, and feed them equipment, which is a weird thing. I guess it makes more sense for me to do that because I literally don't do anything else with the equipment I get anyway, so I might as well just feed it to my amiibo and make it more powerful, whatever that means. But yeah, it's just like it's kind of a mini RPG. It's like fighting a CPU, but you're actually gaining something from it because the little levels ticking up, and you get that sense of progress. It's like the Call of Duty. Look, amiibo are the Call of Duty multiplayer of Smash Brothers because you level them up to level 50, and then like you can reset them and start again. How about that? That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm overly happy about the way they're included in the game. My sort of 7-year-old self is the more happy person right now, just kind of staring at Mario like, oh my god, they're gonna be so amazing! I've got a plastic Mario, and he just like sits there, and like that is my primary reason of happiness right now, above fighting him in Smash Brothers. But like you said, Mario's probably going to be a good one to get, and he'll pop up in some other game. So we'll see. I mean, it was only $13. That's like about £7 or £8 at the moment. So hey, why not?
Yeah, and my Samus amiibo also functions for dual purposes. I can use it in the Russian underground because, as someone posted on Twitter, Samus's amiibo is kind of coded as Metroid. So when you go into the Russian underground, it recognizes it because it thinks it says Metro ID. Which is fucking crazy. That's fucking crazy.
That is crazy.
So yeah.
But I mean,
absolutely.
Smash Brothers Wii U in general, I was actually, I'll admit, ever so slightly burned out by the 3DS version. Smash,
yeah, totally. I can understand that.
The Wii U version was maybe a week away, and I wasn't like flipping out of my seat, dying for it, kind of thing. You know, fanboyisms and all that.
Yeah, I certainly think that had the 3DS version not existed, Smash Wii U may have been able to creep to my number one. Like, I think that a lot of the hype was killed because of 3DS, but it's still, it's hard to, I don't know, it's hard to articulate, really.
I think this was a really tough decision for me, because this is, multiplayer-wise, it doesn't get much better than this. Like, we're a pretty similar level at Smash Brothers, and like the amount of enjoyment I've had by fighting you, NYPPQuestions, because you're so similar in skill level, unless you're in top form with Lucina and I'm just struggling like hell.
Right.
Unless we're in that position, like, we have some really great tight matches more often than not, and like,
absolutely.
that is, like, I think that is a real decider and why this game was my number one, because those experiences, like if I can get a downward spike on you, or if I'm kicking your ass with a Yoshi, or Toon Link's just done something cool, like those are the best experiences I've had this year gaming wise by such a long way, because it's just so much fun, and it is like a drug in all seriousness. It's really like just an adrenaline rush, like I just downward spiked NYPPQuestions, yeah, he's dead.
It's also a drug in terms of addictiveness. There have been many nights where we're like, really go to sleep,
really
like, one more match, and it just doesn't stop.
I'm just sitting there at work really tired, like, why did I have to play one more match? Like, I'm just dying here right now. So yeah.
I mean, my gaming moment of the year is when you were off the stage and I come off with Lucina, charge up my B, like diving towards you, perfectly point it, and jump back. Oh god. I have that replay saved, and it's like my crowning achievement in Smash Brothers. It's pretty beautiful. Yeah. It's so beautiful.
It was the most impressive thing I've seen you do to be in Smash Brothers by a long way, for sure. Yeah, and like, and we are going to play this game for so many more years to come, and hopefully we'll stream it and let everyone have a look at our hilarious matches that we have, because we have some really great matches, and that's why this game just pipped it for me above Tropical Freeze. Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, if I'm by myself for the night and I'm going to play a video game, easily Tropical Freeze, because I do think there are single player issues with Smash Brothers, but in terms of an overall gaming experience where you include all the aspects of the game, Smash Brothers Wii U with that multiplayer and the amount of trophies and the amazing online is just so damn good, so good.
Absolutely. That's why it's my number two. So anyway, you can probably guess what my number one game of the year is, but
Watch Dogs.
If you'd come to me at the start of this year and said your game of the year is going to be Bayonetta 2, I would have slapped you, laughed in your face, and just told you to get out my room, because I didn't care. I didn't care at all for Bayonetta 2. I'd seen like loads of trailers, and I was like, yeah, that looks alright, seems cool. And then the E3 thing happened, and every time Bayonetta 2 came on for the Treehouse livestream, I clicked off and switched to something else, because I didn't care about it. And then the demo happened, and there has never in my life ever before been an instant in which I have been turned around so much on a product in my life. Within literally 15 minutes, I had decided to not only buy Bayonetta 2, but to go and fucking pre-order it that very second. It was so much fun that I was like, holy shit. There is a reason people are going to like love this game, and yeah, that's why everyone is hyped about it, because it is this good. It is insane and incredible, and the way that it even kicks off is like fucking 10 on the scale of 10. It goes higher. It goes to fucking 200 out of 10. It's insane. It's good. I love it. I can't. The words, Bali, save me. I don't know what to say. It's Bayonetta 2. It's so good.
We get it. You absolutely love this game, and like I listened to you as I normally do, and I tried out the demo, and I just couldn't get
because you're terrible at the game, Bali. Because you suck. Get good, bitch. As James Jones would say. Exactly. No, I don't know. There was something about Bayonetta 2, as soon as I started playing it, is that I got into this rhythm, and I kind of had a natural way of understanding how the mechanics were working and flowing, and that was why I enjoyed it so much, because I say this in my Game of the Year video that I put up on my channel, but Bayonetta 2 is like this symphony of component parts that all form into just this incredible package. You have the music, the sound design, the rumble feedback in the controller, and the visuals all acting together to create just this marvelous spectacle. And spectacle is the right word, because there are things that appear on my screen that I have never seen in any video game before, and probably never will again. There's some astounding moments, and, you know, I don't want to really spoil much of it, because you need to go ahead and experience those moments for yourself. They are just literally out of this world. It's incredible. So incredible. So there you go. It's my game of the year. It's fucking good, Bali. It's so good.
I wish I could like support you on this, and like I feel quite empty that I didn't embrace that demo in the way you thought I might. But oh well.
Well, you know. Some things you're not going to gravitate towards, and
yeah,
you know.
I mean, there are so many other genres that I have gravitated towards this year. So, I guess just however you would define Bayonetta just wasn't for me.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, so many other games have appealed to me this year, so I got to look at the positives.
Sure. I mean, for me, this year has all been about like getting out of my comfort zone. I played a first-person shooter that I adored in Titanfall.
Yeah.
I played Hearthstone, a competitive card game, which is insane. I've enjoyed a roguelike in Rogue Legacy, and I have made a character action game, a spectacle fighter no less, my game of the year. So I think that's a message to people. You know, you may like the genres you like. You may want to play every RPG out there. Sure, go ahead, do that. But maybe once in a while, try something new. Try a different genre. Go out of your comfort zone, and you may find something you really enjoy. And that has certainly been the case with me this year. It's been fantastic. So I advocate for it.
I completely agree. I'd never played a first-person shooter, or let alone a first-person game, and then Metroid Prime was my favorite game. Well, I don't even want to get into that title, but yeah, you know what I mean if you listen to the last episode. And you know, that game and Assassin's Creed 4, I'd never really played an open world game before and absolutely loved it. And this podcast has just been such a great way for me to talk about new experiences and new games that I've played. And I've played more games this year than I think I've ever played before by a long way. And it's not like I've been sort of plowing my way through games. I've genuinely been enjoying the vast majority of those games every step of the way, and just being able to say, you know what, I really like this, and I don't like this, and then being able to talk about it on the podcast and share it and have new gaming experiences, because that's what podcasting's about, and it's been good.
Absolutely. It's been a good year, Bally. It's been pretty consistent, and we've done a lot of good stuff here, and I hope that you guys have been enjoying listening to it as much as we've enjoyed making the show. It's been a great thing, and we are certainly not slowing down. We're going to be keep going into the next year, and
onwards and upwards.
Oh man, Bally, I think 2015 is planning out to be one of the greatest years in history, just on so many fronts.
Yeah, there are some incredible games coming out, and not to forget Star Wars at the end of the
Let's
year.
not even go there. I think I might die. It's too much to think about. But yeah, I think that's pretty much going to close out the show for the year. Wow, saying that is kind of crazy.
Next year we should mention that we want to experiment with the show, maybe try some new segments, maybe even get some guests on potentially, and just sort of get other voices to have opinions on games and things. And we want to hear from you guys as well, obviously, so remember to always send emails in to us. But and
what's that email address, Bally?
What the email address? You would like to hear the email address?
I would love to.
The email address is NYPPQuestions@gmail.com. So yeah, we just want to keep growing the podcast and hopefully grow our listenership and see where we can go for the end of 2015.
Absolutely. So you can find us on the internet, various places. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Lordnbz. I'm also Lordnbz on the Miiverse. If you got a Wii U for Christmas, feel free to go ahead and say hi on there. And same for Bally. Bally, where can people find you on Miiverse and Twitter?
Well, on Miiverse, I am Ballyman91, BALLYMAN91, and that is also my name on Twitter. So yeah, if you did buy Wii U, it'd be great to follow me on the Miiverse, where I'll hopefully be posting a bit more. And yeah, on Twitter as well, that would be great if you're interested.
Awesome. As always, just subscribe to us on iTunes is the best way to get the show. We'll download to you automatically, and you won't have to worry about looking for when it comes out. So do that, do all that fun stuff. Bally, it's been a good year, but it's time to say goodbye.
Very good year.
And hopefully we will be fresh-faced for a 2015 first show. So have a good new year, guys. I hope it goes well for you, and I hope you had a good Christmas as well. And we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.
See you in the new year.
Goodbye.